Peace is our theme for the month of May. Hindu spiritual teacher Swami Sivananda wrote that peace is the most covetable possession on the earth. It is, he wrote, the greatest treasure in all the universe. Peace is the most important and indispensable factor for all growth and development. It is in the tranquility and quiet of the night that the seed slowly sprouts from under the soil. The bud opens in the depth of the most silent hours. So also in a state of peace and love, people evolve, grow in their distinctive culture, and develop perfect civilization. In peace and calmness, spiritual evolution is also facilitated, end quote. Peace is indeed a treasure. But to kick us off this month, I want to look at a word that may be the precursor to peace. The Hebrew word shalom is much richer than the English word peace. In fact, the kind of peace that the Swami describes is really just one of many facets of shalom. Maybe we could think of shalom as the soil in which peace grows. To define shalom, I want to look at it the way it's used in the culture in which it arose, as written in the Hebrew Bible. According to Strong's Concordance, which is basically an alphabetical list of every word in the Bible with definitions and how many times they occur, it is fun. It's fun. Shalom means completeness, wholeness, health, peace, welfare, safety, soundness, tranquility, prosperity, perfectness, fullness, rest, harmony, the absence of agitation or discord. For instance, God says to Abraham, "As for you, you shall go to your fathers in shalom. You will be buried at a good old age." Terry McGonigal, who's one of the deans at Whitmore University, writes, "It doesn't just mean that Abraham will not be at war, or even that he will have a calm spirit, but also that his life would end in well-being and completeness. He'll be kept safe. He'll have all that he needs, and the promise to Abraham that he will be the father of a great people will be fulfilled. Wholeness, completeness of his purpose." The concept of shalom is central to the Hebrew Bible. It occurs 550 times in the holy texts of this tiny nomadic nation of ancient Israel. This is a country that got knocked around by its bigger neighbors. There was a golden age when Israel had its own land, but under King David and then his son Solomon, who built a great temple. But according to biblical and other historical texts, Israel spent most of its time at war with nearby nations like the Assyrians, who were known for their cruelty to conquered people. There were Jewish revolts which were sometimes successful for short periods, but the Israelites were often an oppressed people. Such is the case, for example, in the time of the prophet Jeremiah. In 586 BCE, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon conquered the southern kingdom of Israel, which was called Judah. He destroyed the temple and sent Judah's leaders into exile in Babylon. Can you imagine this for yourself? A foreign army not only takes over your country and destroys places like your faith home that you consider precious, but maybe they force you out of bed in the middle of the night and ship you off with hundreds of your neighbors to start a new life in exile in their country. That exile colors many of the most poignant passages in the Hebrew Bible, including Psalm 137, one of the most haunting religious texts I've ever read. "By the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, 'Sing us one of the songs of Zion.' How can we sing the songs of Zion in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you, if I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. Remember, Lord, what they did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried. Tear it down to its foundations. Daughter Babylon, doomed to destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you've done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. A raw cry for revenge. This is the context for the prophet Jeremiah's preaching. The people are in exile in Babylon, longing for their homeland. Prophets like Jeremiah weren't the equivalent of modern-day ministers. They were at the edges of the religious community, calling the people back into right relationship with the values they claimed to espouse. Remember that I said that haunting reading was a psalm. The Psalms were worship songs, so it's likely that those words about revenge were used in worship. The priests in exile in Babylon were leading the people and stoking the fires of revenge. Jeremiah had been exiled in Egypt, far away from the people in Babylon, but when word got to him, he was shaken by what was happening. And listen to what he urges the people to do. Instead of revenge, he says, build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Take spouses, have sons and daughters to the third generation. Multiply there and do not decrease. And here's, I think, the money line. But seek the shalom of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray on its behalf. For in its shalom, there will be shalom for you. I will fulfill my promise to bring you back. For surely I know the plans I have for you, plans for your shalom and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah says to these people who are desperate for revenge, desperate to get back home, seek the shalom of your persecutor, Babylon. You will not have shalom until Babylon has shalom. I imagine this might have rocked the Jewish exile community. How can we blame them for wanting revenge? Jeremiah's words remind us that when it's shalom, wholeness, we're after, we truly are, as the Seventh Unitarian Universalist principle states, part of an interdependent web of existence. Only when we realize that our shalom is bound up with the shalom of our siblings, even those we despise, only when we can resist the urge to grind into powder those whom we feel have done us wrong, only when we can let those we oppose escape with some humanity intact, only then is true shalom possible. Jeremiah is a true visionary, so he wants the people to understand what shalom would look like if it came. He says, the days are coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people. No longer shall they teach one another, or say to one another, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. Now, I'm a humanist Christian myself, so I think about what this might mean to me and other folks who don't much care for a God who meddles in human affairs. And I think what Jeremiah pictures is a world in which people's actions and the values of love and compassion are never in competition. A world in which our work lives and our family lives and our play and our lives in the wider community are so compatible that they can flow into one another without conflict. Where we don't have to sacrifice our guiding principles either to make a living or to make a friend. That's the North Star, the vision on the horizon that can guide us. It seems it's always just out of reach. Like Martin Luther King's beloved community, shalom is something we're always working toward. It is never fully attained. But what a North Star it is in a world in which we individually and as a whole both know our most deeply held values and act them out in all the facets of our lives. What a North Star that is. Wholeness, shalom, the soil in which grows the flower of peace. But it is a mistake, I think, to turn the concept of shalom into simple inner peace. It's much more than that. Shalom in our spirits and shalom in the wider world are connected. Some say we have to achieve inner personal peace first, and then we go out and create peace in the wider world. But I think the truth is a lot more complicated than that. I think peace in the world and peace in our spirits are interdependent, constantly playing off of one another. Neither comes first. Both are always in process together. Compassion is key. As author and theologian Frederick Buechner has written, compassion is the sometimes fatal capacity for feeling what it's like to live in someone else's skin. It is the knowledge that there can never really be any peace and joy for me until there is peace and joy finally for you too. My shalom and yours. My shalom and that of the immigrant, the hungry child, the persecuted one, are bound up together, cannot be completely separated. They cannot be achieved alone. So, in Unitarian Universalism, we walk something of a tightrope. On the one hand, we must never let our focus be solely outward. We need to be on the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And that takes time and attention spent on growing our spirits. If we get out of balance and only do justice work, we run the risk of becoming jaded, burned out, and angry. I appreciate especially in Arizona, I think. I appreciate the challenge of Thomas Merton, who wrote, instead of hating the people you think are war makers, hate the appetites and disorder in your own soul, which are the causes of war. If you love peace, then hate injustice, hate tyranny, hate greed, but hate those things in yourself, not another. This is deeply spiritual work, which takes us inward in pursuit of a spiritual shalom. But we can't maintain only an inward focus either, of course. Our spiritual work must eventually turn us out in compassion to do the work of shalom in the wider world. We see glimpses of shalom in our lives and our spirits and realize that it must be enacted. Another Hebrew prophet, Zechariah, describes what he thinks a shalom world would look like. I like Eugene Peterson's translation of what he said. Shout and cheer, daughter Zion. Raise the roof, daughter Jerusalem. Your king is coming, a good king who makes all things right, a humble king, riding not on a war horse but on a donkey, a mere colt of a donkey. I've had it with war. No more chariots in Ephraim, no more war horses in Jerusalem, no more swords and spears, bows and arrows. This leader will offer peace to the nations, a peaceful rule worldwide from the four winds to the seven seas. Can you imagine a world like that? Where, as another prophet in the Hebrew Bible said, swords are so useless they're melted down and repurposed. Maybe we'd say guns or bombs or fighter jets. Until that day, congregations like this one are places in which we strive for the kind of inner wholeness that leads to worldwide wholeness, slowly, piece by piece. It would be difficult to overstate how proud I am to be serving with you. When I go to places like District Assembly that I just came from, I tell stories of you, and when I listen to other people's stories, I quietly think, wow, I'm glad I'm at Valley UU. The love you offer one another, the good you do in the world, it inspires me. My prayer for you is that shalom be increasingly yours and ours as we continue our work for shalom in our communities and the world. May the work we do be grounded in a deep sense of vision for what could be. May it be so. Amen.